Maboika, ituno, ituno, kina atiaono. I hope you can hear me. Well, I've been taking it easy. Oh yeah, I've been taking it easy. Been trying to work out, trying to get some upper mass. Anyway, I in my Facebook I had posted something about um the shadow self, and that's what we're gonna speak about a little bit. I'm not gonna spend here too long. I got things that I gotta do. But yeah, we spoke about the shadow self and the light cast is the shadow, and how that is is being manifesting in our light beings. You know what I'm saying? Our energy center that we speak about. And if you remember when I spoke about the energy center, I mentioned blockage. But now I want to redact that. I mean, I don't see it as blockage. I see it as another side to your energy center that helps you balance your whole being. You know what I'm saying? Because we have what they call when you look at the what is it, the Kalus and the two serpents flowing. You look at also yin yang. It shows the black part has a white dot, and then the white part has a black dot. Well, that principle is applied also to these energy center. You have an energy about you, a light energy that travels up your energy cord, right? And then you also it casts a shadow. You have a shadow. So it's like you have a sun energy and you have a moon energy. The moon reflects the light, so it's the shadow. It's what give light to what they call the shadow hours, nighttime. And so these two are interconnected and they spiral up. And that's, we're just imagining, giving it some type of imagination, because now we're going to speak about that brow area, the energy center, with alludes to, illusions and alludes to imagination, you know. So for to prepare myself for the star, and especially the crown, because the crown energy center is where you overcome duality, you know, not being on the right, not being on the left, but understanding that it's the same pole, what they speak about in Hermetic science. Um, and we have to our energy center is the same way. And what happened is that some cultures had created duality. So what they did was to term everything that's good for you, or and not I won't say good for you, but everything that is supposedly good or decent, you know what I'm saying, or holy, they name that deity God, right? So they name that God, and that's where you get the Christianity comes from and all these different religions. They name that the deity, right? A Gothic name, God, German. But now the shadow self, what they did is they named that Satan, you know, the evil part, the opposite part. So they created this duality, and that cultures, certain European cultures implemented that. It does come from deeper than that, from Mesopotamia and also from certain groups in ancient Kemet. But this creating of duality, um, you know, it's a cultural thing. So, when we look at illusions, we look at certain cultures that practice and amplify the shadow self. And say they work the shadows. In other words, fear. Like you look at some horror movies, you look at Hollywood, big on fear, in the movie industry was grief, loss of love, or guilty or shame. You look at lies and illusions. These shadow self was amplified by certain culture and certain organization industries, especially entertainment industry. They amplify that because that's in the shadow. They work the shadow. That's where their magic come from. You got white magic and you got shadow magic, what they call black magic or shadow magic. So one thing that I have learned was that, this shadow self is much part of our human experience. In other words, and I'm going to redact something I said, that a baby is not born at all with any of this fear or anything. But then again, yes, they are, because remember, they're coming from a womb, right? And when they come and they birth and they come, and the first thing they do is they cry out. And it's like, you know, if that spirit is not strong enough and that light not strong enough, then they become tra- traumatized by fear, and which is the biggest one, is the root of your energy center. Now, is it good for you? Sometimes the fear of not having something will want you to work hard in obtaining that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the balancement. Sometimes by knowing about guilt, you get to know about your sexual self, and you get to know what's moral. You know, moral is birthed by knowing the opposite, which is the guilt part and shame. So the shadow self is very much part of our human experience, and is also, it's where a hidden magic is at, lies, a hidden magic, and that is through manipulating the shadow self. Those attitudes and those things that we have in us, that we don't expose it. Normally, we don't walk around, fearful of everything. And even though there are people that walk around conscious and feel, they walk around with this sense of excitement. You know what I'm saying? That they're turned to be very alert on things. They can see things before it happens. So it's knowing how to, and I don't want to glorify too much the shadow self, but I want to say that it is part. When you have light, it casts a shadow. It is part of your whole being. You know what I'm saying? Um, in the shadow self, when it comes to the brow area, you have illusion. Illusion can be cast very simple. Let me see if I have an item. I did have a quarter somewhere around here, and I'm looking at. Yep, I do. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I don't lose my camera. Okay. So here's a quarter. You know what I'm saying? So if I take this quarter, right, and I put it in here, right? So I alluded your eyesight to say that it's in here, and you'll see me. I put it in there, right? But in reality, when I look at this and I blow, it's not there. But I did put it in there. You know what I'm saying? I did put it in this. But this is a way of casting the illusion. Then if I want it to reappear, if I close, right, and I just simply rub the back of it, and then automatically it appears. So I alluded with an illusion, making you think, oh, how do you make that disappear? Well, that's magic. And magic manipulates. For instance, you have blind spots. That's why you prefer what they call proverbial visions. You got to learn how to, and you have certain blind spots. So if I know that you have certain blind spots, then I can lie to you. I can use the shadow, amplify the shadow self, especially about illusions, and cast what they call illusions. And that's also the principle that was used in Hollywood. Because remember, we spoke about also about how the Druids, how they um, used to cast their spells around this oak tree or this tree. I forgot what was there's a holly tree, right? And they used to cast spells, which mean illusions. Is they used to have theatric, uh, um, what they call theatric presentations around these forests. This is where they used to get and act out their fears, act out their guilt. You know, when you study acting, it's very big on that. You have to get in touch with this part because that's expression and that's a magical expression. Also in music, a lot of writers in music, you know, like harnessing that part that is not that obvious, but it's amplified as to put it out to the forefront. So that's, you know, the whole, some of the concept behind what an illusion is. So illusions could be cast, okay? And they cast it in Hollywood. And if you look at some of the scripts in Hollywood, like I do script writing, you have to put your character in what they call a proverbial tree and then throw things at them as to make, you know, as to trip them up. You know what I'm saying? Or try them to come down from that proverbial tree. That's certain morals that they're holding. And so you see, and then at the end of it, you had the realization. You know what I'm saying? So it's about, again, to cast an illusion is the amplifying of that particular shadow self that you don't see. Shadows. There's shadows within our eyes, things we don't see, blind spots are called shadow spots. We don't see them. We don't notice them. But a magician are very invested on learning about it, learning about those harnessing that. And then imagination. The power of imagination is also rest upon these higher frequencies, what they call the higher energy centers. You know what I'm saying? Disney was very big on dogma and doctrine. As a matter of fact, there's a movie called Fantasia, fantasy, casting that illusion. He was shown as a wizard. This is an art form. This is where the truth enter into your mind to taint it with illusions. And then they can bring in the lies and amplifies your shame. So you become attracted to that because you know it's magical. You know it's there. We all, it's a human nature, human experience. You know what I'm saying? So another way with the dogma and the doctrine is, again, like I said, you have on one side, you have the white light, or what they call God light. And on the other hand, you have the shadow light, or what they call the Satan, the world, you know, Satan, your God is Satan. But these are two sides of the same coin. Because if you read the Bible, the Holy Bible, if you read the Holy Bible, it mentions a lot about Satan. It gives you all his attributes. It mentions all, and in the beginning, this is according to the dogma and doctrine to show you how it is hidden in all these doctrines are hidden with what we call Christianity. You know what I'm saying? And the satanic doctrine is really, really what they call the doctrine of Balaam. And the other doctrine, I can't even pronounce that name, but I'll get it for you, I promise. Well, you know, it's infused in there. You know what I'm saying? If you look at in the Garden of Eden, you know, when God told Eve, don't eat of this tree because you're gonna surely die, right? And now I'm talking in literal, not metaphorically and not symbolically, because people will want to take it into the metaphorically. It means this, it means that. Literally, literally, he said not to eat of that tree. right? But then comes, and all you will surely die. But then comes so-called Satan, so-called, according to that narrative, told her, what do you mean? If you eat that, you ain't gonna die. She ate it. Did she die? Some people say, oh, spiritual death or whatever. No. Did she die? No, literally. So I'm saying that these doctrines that are in there happen to play with the mind. People don't think about that. You know what I'm saying? Another one was with Job when they Satan came to in amongst God and his angel and asked permission. He was humble enough to, he could have just went and done what he did to Job, but no, he asked permission. And there was a bet, a barter between God and the devil. So you see, these doctrines are in there when you look at it from that perspective. And that is looking at overcoming duality. So you get to see, the paradoxical reason behind a lot of these doctrines that are infused. So again, this is a culture that goes back 10,000 years, and one, they're magicians. Their archetype is to be the magician, whereas to bring new things to life, and the way they do that is by manipulating, amplifying, and manipulating the shadow self of human nature that we all have. Okay. Even nature itself manipulates the shadow self, because if you have a seed and you plant that seed, what does it need? It needs darkness in order for that seed to grow. It needs moisture, soil, right? And it needs darkness. When you wake up at night, then you see it's struggling. If you put a camera at night, you get to see the springing forth of a plant in the night, in the shadow. You know what I'm saying? So it's the point I'm making is about this brow energy center is that you have to also work with the illusions. You got to get to know what are these illusions, and how can I bring things to light. Now you have a difference between light, shadow, and enlightenment. Okay, a light energy, ball of light, can cast a shadow, but then you have an enlightenment within that lights up everything. You know, so but we'll speak about that some other time. But so that's really the what I really wanted to go over here, and that is that you have, you know, we're speaking about the shadow self, and we're talking about the human nature and how that was manipulated and labeled at Satan. And then our light self, our energy center, the light self was were taken and labeled as God. So you have one and one. You know what I'm saying? And that's duality. But it's the same, it comes from the same culture. It's the same system. It's the same coin. You know what I'm saying? When you look at it, you know. So illusion, it's a part of life. It's part of your human nature. We can elude ourselves and we make ourselves delusional when we do that. But when we get too bombarded with so much illusions, you have to also, yes, you have to also have that sense of of being discreet, and that sense of moderacy, moderately. You know what I'm saying? You can't get too involved in light, and you can't get too involved in the shadow. You can't get too involved in the other side of the coin, what they call God, right? And you have the other side of the coin, what they call Satan. That's being an extremist. You know what I'm saying? But when you are centered and you know of what illusions are, and you know how you can use those illusions to sort of guide you in helping you gain the light self, or what they call the enlightenment self. And what that does is there's revelations that is involved with the brow center. So you gain a certain perspective, vision, and devotion, fidelity, high magic, because you get to know how to use those shadow forces and to create your magic. A sacred love, mysticism, drawing aside the veil. Because remember, there's a veil there. There's something that we have to draw outside of the veil, the illusion. So, you know, um, when you are getting the grips of what illusion is and you're gaining enlightenment, you're balancing your intellect and your intuition. When you're able to do that, you're balancing that intellect and that intuition when it comes to learning about that shadow self we call illusion in the brown energy center. You know what I'm saying? You're opening the mind also. You're opening up your mind. You're open-minded to see things in a certain way. You're trusting intuitive insights. Very important. Developing a creative imagination. Remember, the harnessing of those shadows will help you to create this imagination and bring balance to both sides. You know what I'm saying? And you have this ability to visualize with this brown energy center. You know, and there are people that take chemicals out here. They take like shrooms, mushrooms, magic mushrooms they call them, and then because what it does, it opens up and it lets you see a lot of this shadow self that you have within you. Once you purge that, or no, not necessarily purge it, but you balance it and you settle that so you don't become too caught up in that, and the scale is not tipped too much on that side, and you get to balance on this side and gain your imagination, gain more intuitive power, imagination. So yes, the shadow self is a part of human nature, just like your energy center. It is part of your energy center. It is. It's just it has two folds in there. It actually is one, but cultures, some cultures and some people separate both of them, and you cannot. You cannot. You cannot separate God from the devil. The devil puts God in business. You know what I'm saying? And that's the shadow self puts churches in business. You know what I'm saying? Just think about it. And then the churches put the shadow self in business, you know, by amplifying. So the key is to be balanced. Don't fall for the okey doke. You know what I'm saying? Be aware. You know what I'm saying? Think about intuition. So we've gone from the star energy center, right? Which of those the shadow self will be the dogma and the doctrine. And some dogma and doctrine is fine if it is aligned with human nature and nature. If it's aligned, you know what I'm saying? Then you can work with that. It helps you realize certain things. And then, of course, you have the crown, which the ego. Sometimes you do need an ego in order to get stuff done. Sense of pride too, in order to get stuff done. You need that sense of ego. It's just knowing how to balance your energy with that by certain things. You know what I'm saying? And now we're at the brow, and that is the shadow self, is the illusions. And we discussed already how illusion, and the word illusion, illusion, and delusion has the the the, the sound of lud in there. And I think that's German. I'll look it up, but it means to play. So your it's to play. It's play which, and like I say, entertain is to play, pleasurable is to play with your senses. You know what I'm saying? You look at a horror movie, you look at a film, any film, they're playing with your emotions. Music, you listen to certain music, playing with your emotions. You know what I'm saying? Hollywood, play, and your eyes could play on your illusion. Magicians manipulating plays on your illusion, on they play and they play on your sight. You know what I'm saying, and your senses. So when it plays on your senses like that, that means illusion. And sometimes, you know, if you are a artist, you know, you can cast you're casting illusions, and it doesn't mean, and I don't mean to discredit it, and I'm not saying that it's bad for you. Like I said, there's no evil, there's no good. It's just being. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what it is. Now, of course, there's heinous and atrocities that exist where people carry it, like I said, extremists. You know what I'm saying? Some people are so extreme that they carry it to another end that it becomes very detrimental to society. You know what I'm saying? Because they're using it for a diabolic a purpose that throws the human nature out of balance. You know, throws everything out of balance, and that's the main premise of this, is to stay balanced and how to deal with that balance. So I hope I just, made my point in that, um, at the end of this podcast, and when you relook at it again, that it sparks something in you. You know what I'm saying? As to say, man, look, like I said, look at the world. Really, it opens up be open minded. Look at the world around you. You know what I'm saying? Don't close your mind. Look at the world around you, especially at this time with the COVID-19. And like I was saying in my Facebook podcast, that you know you could see, you could intuitively see and sense that this was an illusion cast on us, because in the beginning, when an illusion is cast, people become delusional, delirious and delusional. In the beginning, people delusional ran for toilet paper. What does toilet paper has to do with the disease? I mean, because you can't clean your butt. I mean, go in the shower, damn it. Or white peas or something. Not even white people. You cut up a T-shirt. You know what I'm saying? There's ways to get around that. You know what I'm saying? But again, because the media, which is a medium, a lot of times you need a medium in order to cast an illusion, right? You need that veil, that medium. So the medium is that media casts this illusion out there, you know what I'm saying, and eluded everybody, you know, with this illusion, and a lot of people became delusional that they don't even want to speak to anybody anymore. They don't even want to say hi. You sneeze, they don't even want to say God bless you. Nothing. It's just, it changed. And then for those people that are Bible thumpers and Christianity and religious people, what happened to COVID-19 is shut everything down. So if you're protected by so-called God, then how is it that this COVID-19 could come and shut the house of God down, the mosque of Allah down, the temple, the synagogue of Yahweh down? How is it that it can do that? And get ready, they're getting ready to do that again. You know what I'm saying? So, we don't know how this thing is playing out. But I could tell you something again, you know, apart from illusions, you have frequencies um that that are being prominent, that are coming down from the galactical heavens. Seeing the different magnetic forces of these different solar bodies, how they react to each other and they pull on each other. The electricity that they have, electromagnetic forces that they have between them. And December the 21st marks the end of this Jupiter and Saturn positioning themselves in the Aquarius, which will be springboard, what they call the age of Aquarius, right? So that's just speaking in astronomy terms. Astronomy, and they say that astronomy is casting illusions on us. Well, that's what I said. That illusion is not all bad. It's playing with us. Is it really playing with us? Or it's just that it's part of human nature? Part of human nature is being in tune with your galactical self and your mundane self. When you try to separate it, then you get into the mundane becomes Satanism. You know what I'm saying? Because they amplified it and they, like real quickly before I go, one example is abstinence and indulgence. In the white light, in the Christianity, they talk about abstaining from certain desires, abstain from it, right? Whereas Satanism, they say indulge in your desires because that's the only way that you could overcome it. So there's two ways to overcome. It's just which way you choose to use it. You know, I'm like, why overcome anything at all? Why not just let it be? You know what I'm saying? Why not just let it be? Be moderately, enlighten yourself and to say my desires. If I choose to abstain, I can abstain, no problem. I choose to indulge, I can indulge, no problem. Either way, the whole point is that I'm going to balance that energy, you know, and very important, balancing that energy. So that's what it talks about, the mundane. So there's some people that are so what they call lower frequency is not something that's bad. That's the whole thing. Lower frequency is just that lower. And remember, you got the high frequency, and it's all frequency. And a lot of time it could flip on you. Remember the waves? How you got a peak point up and you got a peak point down. That could shift, just like your energy bodies shift. You know, and the axis is the heart, you know. So the axis is that linear line when it comes to the wave, you know what I'm saying? And then the high frequency and the lower frequency is frequency. You know what I'm saying? The middle ground is the outcome of it. You know what I'm saying? So when people say, oh, those are lower frequency vibes, yeah, they're lower frequency. And so what? And so what? They're lower frequencies. And I also have higher frequencies. I have both. That's human nature. But again, like I said, people get into that whole doctrine that is not based on human nature, and so they extreme to one side and extreme to the other side. Like politics is a good example of that. I'm extreme is right and extreme is left, and that's what the media pushes out all the time. The leftists and this and that, and all the right wing, and then that. But it's the same system. The same corporation that one of them, those candidates on this election is going to run, the same corporation. Why not look into that corporation? You know what I'm saying? And see how that operates, and how changes to the corporation can come about. Because let me tell you something, they changed the Constitution. The Constitution of 1776 is not the same Constitution that we have today. Is not. They enacted that. They changed everything. So you got to look at the system. You got to look at this corporation and see what is bylaws and regulations, and it changes. Those statutes changes all the time. Change is a certain occurrence. But if it's too dogmatic to one side, and it's that doctrine they pushing to the extremism on one side, what happens is they diluted the system. They manipulated the system to a point where it's now, they're casting illusions from one side. from one side, they're casting an illusion, one-sided illusion. So you got to be aware of that. You got to see where that comes in, man. I hope this is been clear to anybody. But as far as your life is concerned and illusions, be mindful, very mindful of the your environment, the things that you take in, movies or things you read or the media, music you hear, because remember, you have the first thing you got to say, okay, they're casting an illusion of the shadow self and try to recognize it. What are they saying? Are they talking about sorrow, resentment? Are they talking about, even when they talk about love, they got to talk about losing love in order to find love. You know what I'm saying? How you find love because you lost it. So the shadow is still there. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to see how that's being implemented and being used, because that's magical power. That's your personal power. You know. So you look at movies, decode the movies. Say, oh, wait a minute. It's appealing to this. It's appealing to what part of your shadow self. So you become aware of it, and then you can balance it with your light self and your enlightenment, and it can enlighten you. The shadow self could, when you recognize it, and you could pull it over to the light self, and then you become enlightened from within, and you get to see, what spells are being cast, and spelling. You know what I'm saying? All relative. Wordplay, what they say. The words. Play is play again, to play, lude, which is the root of illusion, delusion, and alluding or deluding. Is to play with the thing. When you dilute something, you play with it as you separate it, or you bring it to a point where you want it to. You dilute it, the situation. You know what I'm saying? So again, what play? Word play is a very powerful way to cast illusions by word play. And in other words, they should say lewd, word lewd, word illusions, word alluding, word delusionals. Man, based on words, you got trigger words out here. You know, mention the word of God, and everything comes to mind about God. People, man, you know what I'm saying? Mention the devil, Satan, and whoo, trigger words. Those are trigger words. Those are wordplay. That's what this culture did. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to put it too much on the Europeans, because they learned it from the Mesopotamia and from ancient Kemet at a certain point, where they were balanced and they knew how to use the shadow self, the part of fear. For instance, a lot of the hieroglyphics and the way they detected segment, or the lioness. Man, lion could bring fear. Fear. Go to a lion's den or come around lions. You have to overcome a certain fears in order to be around that lion. You know. So why use that as an example? Is because, again, they were revealing something about the shadow self that's very important when you really go deep. And I don't want to go too deep into that, because that's taking it into another area, to deal with hieroglyphics. When I started becoming more aware of my human nature, and aware of this type of thinking, or open-minded thinking, I was able to look at hieroglyphics and see, especially the images, and see what was happening there. You know, it gave me some type of sense of intuition. It opened my mind up, intuition. So, I was able to do that. Very, very important. You know what I'm saying? Especially with wordplay. You know what I'm saying? How the language was came about by, hearing, playing with the hearing, audio, like you got, why they say Ra for the sun, or Ray, Ra, right? Well, they always depict the sun as if it was a lion. What did the lion do? The lion looks like a sun. What did they do? They said, rah, they roar. There's certain birds, the falcon bird, right? Heru, they hear that heru, heru. You know what I'm saying? So there was a few, a few words and deities that had a significance when it came to natural nature. That's what I'm saying that if, because that's a doctrine also, you know what I'm saying, in ancient Kemet, it's a doctrine also. And but when it's saying the doctrine when it's aligned with natural nature and with human nature, then it's more favorable. You know what I'm saying? For me, anyway, it's more favorable because you can see the connection with the human nature. But anyway, remain open minded. Use your imagination. You know what I'm saying? Become intuitive. All of this is by knowing your shadow self. Make sure that you aware of that, and that's the illusions that are constantly being cast on you. And learn also how to play too and cast illusions too. It's fun. Cast illusions. As long as you do it in good, have good intentions, and you do it to benefit the society for the better. You know what I'm saying? For the better. I've seen people cast certain illusions, and it society and communities formed communities that was very beneficial. It's not long lasting. I could tell you that. You know, because everything rises and falls, so it's not long lasting. But when you get to experience a huge illusion cast in front of you, you get to appreciate that and you get to know what it is. So, you know, but right now, with this COVID-19, what they call certificate of vaccination, the 19, or I call it the COVID, covert id, covertly how to manipulate your id. Say there's many different ways of looking at it. But anyway, um, the um, the illusion that's being cast, just get to recognize it. You know what I'm saying? And see it for what it is. Open your mind up. Open your mind up. Of course, be safe. Be safe. But see what kind of illusions are being cast, man. You know what I'm saying? And make sure that those illusions are not making you delusional. It's very hard because they're playing with your emotions. And people our lives are being played with every day, and that society is doing that. Certain people in society runs the society. What the municipalities. You know what I'm saying? The municipalities are casting these illusions, these principles that are keeping us in a very delusional mindset. Delusional. So again, keep an open mind. And if you want to deal with your imagination, then don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go into the shadow. Do not. When you hot in the sun, what do? You look for shade, right? You go into the shadow in order to cool down. So look at it like that. You know what I'm saying? Learn about this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Learn it. Open your mind to it, and right now, look into the illusions. See how things are playing in your mind. Be in contact with that. Be in contact by the things that you learn as growing up and the illusions that was cast even from your own family. Look at everything. Question your beliefs, because that's the time that we're in the great transformation. In order to springboard society into a better society, we have to question our values we have today and question our beliefs we have today in order to move forward. And you have to question that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to discredit Like the church done its job and everything, but in today's day and time, what's happening? You have to question your belief and what's happening in this day and time, and what you know. How can we benefit? How can we change this thing? First within ourselves and then change it in our environment. Very important. You know. So don't be afraid of that shadow. So don't be afraid of fear. That's kind of like be afraid of fear. Say the same thing twice. But anyway, don't be afraid. Don't shun away from your guilt. Face your guilt. Face your. So in other words, you face your doubts, your beliefs, and your doubts. You face those beliefs. Okay. Then you face your fears, and you face your guilt. Then you face your shame. Then face the lies. Face the illusions. Face your dogma and doctrine. Those are all in the shadow self. When you face the shadow self, that part of you, the moon cycle within your body, the moon energy within your body, when you face that, you get to know for what it really is, a reflection of your light, the electromagnetic forces within your body, the reflection of that. Okay, it's casting a reflection, casting a shade. You have to look at it. You know what I'm saying? Become vulnerable to that, because then when you look at it, you're being honest with yourself and you be able to heal certain wounds, karma wounds. You'll be able to see your archetype. These are important things. Well, anyway, just staying with the illusion. Right now, just look at this. Be open-minded. Look at the illusions around you. Look at the illusions that are being cast today. And the trick is to play. How is this playing out? Who's playing with this? Who's behind this? You know what I'm saying? What's going on here? Who's behind this? You know what I'm saying? You ain't see, a magician will never. One of the main cardinal rules a magician have is to never expose, or never expose your technique to anybody. You know what I'm saying? So they're vowed to like a secrecy. But there are books out there you can find out, about sleight of hand. What I did was a little sleight of hand. You know what I'm saying? So there's things that we can do. Never show the same trick twice. So I'm not gonna show it to you. I gotta abide by those rules. And not that I'm a magician. Well, I am a magician in the sense of my true self, because a magician makes dreams come true. And there's things that I dream, my family dreams, and I want to make them come true. So I have that archetype, that the magician archetype in me. You know what I'm saying? As to make, I'm one to get aboard and making a dream come true. You know what I'm saying? Like the Taino resurgence, and the idea of us getting back in modern time, but still practicing our ancient ways. You know what I'm saying? That's important. That's the dream of me, to live in the mountain. Those, you know what I'm saying? That's what being an archetype, a magician. You know what I'm saying? When we spoke about that. But anyway, I want to make this short. I've already been here 48 minutes. Like I said, we're going to go down into the throat energy center. And boy, I can go at it. I can keep speaking and speaking for a long time, because once that energy is flowed, but then right there, you got to look at the lies that, you know, you have acquired through doctrine or through falsehood by the fragmentation of the civilization, and you, utilizing this English language is a fragmented language because it has parts from different other languages. So, there's a lot that we have to think about when we talk about the throat energy center. And then I like the frequency of that, of expressing that and harnessing those gifts, and also magically harnessing those gifts. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, peace, blessings to everyone, and I hope you gain something from this insight. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gaining something from it, and I hope that it's mutual and there's a common unity here. Okay, peace.